Okay, so tonight I've got both a bit of practical as well as theoretical teaching. I like to do a little bit of practical when I can. A little bit of Qigong. Because tonight we've been talking about expanding awareness. And I want to get you an idea of what it actually is and what is happening. And I think one of the ways that I first experienced this kind of thing was through Qigong, actually, many, many years ago. And I had my first experience of expanding awareness was when I was at university. And it expanded so far that I was like, became the whole universe, and the whole universe was inside of me. It was like something really profound, really blew me away at the time. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of Qigong and give you an experience of this. So what I want you to do is I want you to stand up. With your hands and your arms. Okay, legs shoulder width apart. Shoulder width apart. And with your hands down, put them down in front of you. Then I want you to lift them up. You see my hands here? I want you to lift them up so the palms are facing upwards. Palms facing upwards. And they'll keep on going up. And then around the time they reach your head, they'll turn over and they'll push up. Okay. And then they'll turn around and then they'll go down until they reach a natural place towards the bottom. And they'll turn over and they'll scoop. They'll come back up. And as you come up, I want you to breathe in. So you're breathing in through the nose. And then turn over and exhale on the way down. Now, as you go down, I want you to bend your knees. I don't type up. And inhale, bringing them up. Exhale, sinking down in your posture, as if you're pushing yourself into the ground. And then inhale, you'll come back up. Exhale, and you're pushing yourself down, feeling yourself sinking into the ground as if you're sinking into mud, deep down. Bringing up. Exhale, sinking down, bending the knees, sinking deep down. Going on like this. You'll find yourself going deeper down and feeling heavier and more rooted to the ground as you do this. It's a simple Qigong exercise for rooting oneself to the ground. Now, from here, staying low in your stance. You might want to widen your stance for some of you, still quite narrow, a little bit, maybe a bit wider than shoulder width. I want you to put your hands in front of you as if you're holding a ball. So if you're holding a big ball, okay, that looks good for most of you, okay? So your palms are pointing towards your navel. Both palms, as if there was a ray of energy coming out of the center of the palm, and that ray of energy goes straight towards the navel, both of them, creating kind of triangle of energy between the palms and the navel. Hands will be about 6 inches apart, maybe less. And you're bending your knees a bit, but comfortably. The knees go outwards slightly, rotating them outwards slightly. And having the tongue touching the top of the palate, just behind where the teeth are, just as it goes upwards. Place your tongue there. Imagine a weight hanging off of your tailbone, pulling the tailbone downwards. And a string attached to the top of your crown, lifting the crown up. And now I want you to slowly close your eyes partially, just as we do when we meditate. And go back to recollecting the crystal ball, a ball of light at the center of your body. And return to the mantra Samma Arahang. And try and keep your elbows outwards quite a bit, keeping a nice space in where the armpit is. So you gain a nice ring of energy with the arms. So meditating with the crystal ball and the Samma Arahang. Just going to stay here a little while. This is an exercise just simply called holding the ball, which builds up energy better than almost any other Qigong technique. It roots us. So we've already done that first exercise. We're rooted to the earth energy below us. And then we accumulate this energy on the main energy centers of the body, towards the center of the body and the navel, connecting the palm centers to the navel. Get little rings of energy around the arms, between the palms and the navel. It builds up a ball of energy that we're holding. Allowing any little alterations in your posture to happen by itself is quite normal, quite natural. That's good. For a while, you'll feel something kind of strange. Sometimes you'll feel something between the fingers or between the palms. You won't be yet feeling the full sensation. Sometimes, yes, you'll feel energy going up the legs and some blockages in the legs, sometimes making you wobble a bit. Sometimes you feel you want to sway backwards and forwards a little bit on the breath. Whatever happens, it's all natural. Just go with it. But don't let it be too strong. Now, very carefully listen to the next step before you do anything, before you move at all. I now want you to have your hands take this ball of energy that they're holding and to move the palms so that they now face each other holding this ball. Don't let go of your ball of energy. But I just want you to make it so that your palms are now facing each other without touching. Very important. Don't let them touch. Open your eyes. Don't let them touch. Okay. And now having your arms slightly straight. Then I want you to flatten the hands and to bring the hands kind of closer together, but don't let them touch. Bring them to about 1 inch or 2 apart, and then expand them outwards to about 1 foot and a half, and bring them back together. Again, not letting them touch. Now, as you expand outwards, you breathe in, and as you bring them closer together, you breathe out. Breathing in, expanding, breathing out, compressing, so it comes to about 1 inch or 2 apart. So your hands will come quite wide apart, don't follow me, and then they'll get quite close together, flat, to about 1 inch or 2. Now try just doing it around 6 inches apart to about an inch apart. I suspect most of you will now be starting to feel something a little bit weird in the hands and in the palms. Now I want you to take these two hands and spiral them, in the same location, all right? I'm just showing it on the screen. And spiral them round and round. So they're down here in front of you, and you're spiraling them round and round. Again, not letting them touch. You probably really will start to feel something going on in the center of the palm. As we spin this sort of chakra or wheel of energy that comes out of the center of the palm. And change direction. Now bounce them again a little bit. You probably feel like your hands are a bit like magnets at this point. And try to find, very slowly now, try to find the edge. And you'll see what I mean by this, okay? So bring them apart and bring them close together. There'll be a part where it kind of feels like it starts to repulse. Now take, say for example, your right hand and follow the arm upwards and just try and gain a sense of what I would call the aura. Some of you will find about an inch or two apart, you'll feel something. When you get good at it, you can kind of float your hand along the aura as if there's something surrounding it. Even try shutting your eyes with that and just gaining a sense of the boundaries of the aura. And around the fingertips, you will finally notice it's slightly different as it goes around the fingertips. Though it's a bit subtle for the first time, but you never know, you might discover something. Okay, come back holding your ball. Now, the fingertips face each other. And you bring again the hands further apart and nearer, further and nearer, so that the fingertips are facing each other. And now looking between the hands and say the carpet, and keep your gaze kind of blurred. So as if you're looking through the hands a little bit. It's blurring the vision a bit and looking between the fingers. As you keep on pulling them apart and bring them closer together. Now, it's not everybody who's going to be able to notice anything, but some people notice as if there's something kind of white, ghostly between the fingers. some fun with that. Okay. Now, take your hands, your left hand, and place it over your navel. Place your right hand over that hand. And then just spin it round and around the navel a few times. And pat the navel a bit. Okay. And then we're done. You can sit back down. Very simple bit of Qigong I always used to teach. Did anybody feel something? A ball. Yes. Like holding a ball. Did anybody not feel anything? No one. You will all feel quite quickly something. Tingling. Sometimes tingling, prickling. Most people feel some kind of magnetic, sometimes heat. Basically, your hands turn into magnets. It's like an electromagnet. And it is electromagnetic energy. You just got quite a lot of it built up. And so it becomes quite feelable. It's almost like you've got static going off of it. And did you even get a sense? I mean, it's a bit harder, don't get me wrong, this is quite subtle stuff. But did you gain a sense of being able to feel an aura around the hand and arm a bit? So now you've got direct experience of the aura. And it didn't take very long for us to get that. So, as I said, I was teacher of Qigong for many, many years, ever since university. And that was one of the favorite things I'd have people do, is being able to gain a direct experience themselves of energy from the start. And then as we carried on, we would be working with that energy. And last week, of course, I gave a whole talk on Qigong and how meditation, I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch it yet, but you did see it, oh, well done, on how meditation in this form is actually a Qigong without kind of being declared as a Qigong, but all meditations are effectively Qigong or energy work. And but you didn't have a really understanding of what it feels like yet. That gives you an understanding, a direct understanding of what it feels like. And there is this aura around us. What we just felt just now was the first layer of the aura. And there are some people who can see it. It's one of the easier ones to see, and with practice. And as I said, when we just did that finger thing, I'm not sure if you will have seen it. Just it's pretty difficult to see, but there is some people who can see kind of like streamers going between the fingers when you do that. Tends to help with pretty dim light when you do that, and you can sometimes see something ghostly between the fingers as this energy goes between them. But there's many theories out there, particularly in the West and the New Age, and about the different layers of the aura. Okay, so in the Qigong tradition themselves, they really only have two layers that they really talk about. That first one, and then a wider one, and that's about it. The yoga tradition is not that actually that explicit about the aura, but it was much more in the Western traditions that they really expanded on it and gone to town on it, quite frankly. There's, like I showed you in the pictures from a previous talk on what I was actually teaching last night, in fact, on the 7 bases of the mind. And I showed a picture of the aura, and that was taken from a camera. And the West has developed cameras and video cameras even that take pictures of the aura dynamically moving around. And that one tends to be wider. That tends to be in an oval shape around us. And that's the one that's most well known in the West as well. And it seems to fluctuate according to mood. That aura tends to be based on mood. Whereas this first aura is more about health. And in fact, when you're doing energy healing, which I studied, we would check that aura and find it can have bits uneven where it's weak and it goes in and it dips in, and we know there's a problem there. And then we can know how to do healing based on this. So the first layer is really about the state of the physical body. It's on a very rough, low level. But then as we go outwards, there's more subtle levels to it. And so emotional states, spiritual states are further out than this. As I say, though, in the West, they've come up with various different systems. There was one who's very popular from, what was her name? Brennan something. She wrote this book called Hands of Light, one of the most famous books by an energy healer. And she came up with a system of like 6 or 7 layers of this aura. And she was somebody who, by all accounts, seems to be very, very psychic and able to see many different aspects to this. But there's so many systems out there in the West on this. Seems every new age author comes up with their own one. So I'm not going to go into details on that, okay? Because there is no consensus that I've been able to find out there on this. But the one that's you can directly experience is that first one, okay? But the general principle is the same throughout all of them, which is that the further they go out, it's a more subtle level of our being, a more spiritual level. So the first ones are more physical, and as they go out, it comes into the more spiritual. The more spiritual ones are basically larger. And that principle does correlate with what we have in our tradition as well, I would say. When we talk in our tradition about inner bodies, I haven't yet talked about that much, except maybe one of you have heard of it, but we talk about things getting larger. And so these aura aspects also do correspond with this. So there are these different levels and different aspects to this. And I think that what we're experiencing when we're meditating is as we sort of become more subtle and more refined in our vibration, if you will, or a state of consciousness, is that it shifts into these extra layers, and it feels like we're expanding beyond the body, and we are expanding beyond this physical body into these more subtle levels of our being, so to speak. But there are quite a range of different experiences that can happen in meditation on a kinesthetic level. I think I've talked already about light a couple of times before. Now I'm going to talk about more kinesthetic experiences that we get in meditation. Kinesthetic, you know this word? It means like a touch. Okay, it's about spatial things, about touch things instead of visual things. Sometimes we experience, and it's a bit unnerving for some people at the beginning, a limb disappearing. Like, and for many people, when they're sitting on the floor, sometimes it's the legs disappear. But for a lot of people, for some reason, the hands or the arm even starts to disappear. Anybody ever get something like the hands disappearing? You have, yeah? Okay. Not yet, not yet. Yes? Yeah. Legs, for example? Have you got, yeah, legs and hands. So yeah, sometimes it's not always this in the very same way or a very linear way. I mean, it's literally is just the legs. Where's my legs gone? Many people have opened their eyes to check that their legs are there. A great number of people I know have done this. And that's particularly the first hint, okay? Don't open the eyes. First rule of meditation, do not open the eyes. Whether you see light, is that a real light shining? Oh, and you open your eyes to check it and it disappears on the spot, of course. Or, you know, am I floating? Am I levitating? You open your eyes just to check you're still on the ground. Of course you're not floating. Of course you're not levitating. Are my legs dropped off? No, they're still there. Okay, don't open the eyes. Okay, first rule. Okay, do not open the eyes. Do not react in that way. Anything untoward has ever occurred in meditation in this regard, so don't worry. It also gets a bit more unnerving sometimes when the whole body disappears. And I do know some people think, oh my God, I've died. And they get really quite concerned. Oh no, I've died. Am I going to be able to get back to my body? In actual fact, as soon as you think of the body, bang, you return straight into the feeling of the body, and you've completely lost the whole meditation experience. So that comes to the next rule, which is Do not think about the body. Okay, do not think about the body. Yes, we're focusing our mind at the center of the body at the beginning. The center of the body is a door. It is a door. And once you go through the door and you go down the hallway, you don't need to run back down the hallway to the front door. Okay, so once you've gone through, you're starting to get an inner experience, whatever the inner experience is, forget about the body. Do not think at all about the body. All right, so otherwise you'll go straight back to the body. Okay, because whatever you think about, that's where your attention will go, and suddenly it'll put full attention, because it's concentrated awareness at this point. Suddenly full attention will go back on the body, and you slam back into it. Okay, so just forget about it at that point. It has not disappeared. It just is out of your awareness for a bit, just like when you go to sleep. Every single night you've done this, except those ones where you toss and turn the whole night in insomnia, right? We'll forget about this. But, you know, it's natural for us as we fall asleep to forget about the body and go into a dream. Okay? So if you can do it every night, well, don't freak about it when you meditate. It's not any different. Okay? So, yes, the whole body may well disappear. It may disappear in bits and bobs. As I say, the legs go, and then it creeps up, the hands and arms are gone, and then finally, it's like, was that Cheshire Cat in that film? What was that film? Alice in Wonderland, wasn't it? And there's only the smile of the cat left. You know? And it'd be good if there's only the smile left, right? You're only happy at that point, and then finally the whole body's gone. But sometimes it just, you kind of just forget about the whole body as a whole. And that's quite often the case as well, until maybe you're in the crystal ball and at some point you forgot about the body and it's gone. It can happen in different ways. Another one, and this is quite a slightly more unusual one, but I have known several people, even here, who've had this one. And that is the experience of shrinking down. You had that one as well? Really? Okay. Yeah, some people, I don't know what it's like. I've never personally had this one. I've had virtually all of them, but I've never had this one. And they say that it's like they've become really, really small or something like that. And I can't work out if everything else seems large, or it's just as they seem small. But anyway, they say they feel like they're shrinking down and down and down until they're like really tiny. It's a slightly rarer one, but same principles apply. It's another one of these, you know, possible things that can happen in meditation. Same principles apply. You know, don't freak out. Just let it happen. Be neutral. It will develop into something else afterwards. It's just that you go through. And all of these ones are just basically signals that you're going into what we call samadhi or concentration or tranquility. It's the beginning stages of samadhi, and it comes out in all sorts of strange kind of experiences at this time. That is one of the possible ones. It's probably not was it uncomfortable at all, shrinking? Really pleasant, yes. Yeah, and most of them are pretty pleasant. Okay, but there is one that's a bit weird, and I must admit, when it happens to me, I do find it a bit tricky, and that's spinning, and it's quite a common one as well. Most people find the spinning to be that way, right? You know, or this sort of direction, around, just like we drunk or whatever, spinning. Okay. Sometimes apparently you can get quite fast. I've never had it go really, really fast, but some people have found that they've had it gone quite fast. I never get it like that. I get this way around and it starts spinning like that. That's really strange. Like cartwheels, That's really weird. Okay, that I must admit is quite difficult to stay neutral with the spinning. But actually the same principles apply. If you can stay neutral to it, it will develop into something else. Oftentimes into things like shrinking and real strange spatial experiences. distortions, until it will reach the final point which we're aiming at. And all the different inner experiences of this stage all have the same final point, in fact. Okay. It's just how they get there. Okay, they all converge on the same kind of final experience. So if you can go with the spinning, and I say go with it, it's the same thing for all of them, okay? And it probably is the most important thing, which I'll expand on, is that you want to allow it to happen, but you don't want to kind of get involved in it and go with it. You don't want to like start spinning round and round with it, kind of thing. You want to be distanced from it a little bit, okay? If you start getting, and the problem with all of these inner experiences, particularly the first 5, 10, 15 times they happen, is that they're really interesting and strange, and they draw your attention to them. And that means you lose your balance of mind. You lose this neutrality of mind. And that's the biggest obstacle. And it's a big wall of an obstacle, okay? And usually the only way to get over this wall of an obstacle is have it happen more than 10, 15 times, have it happen many, many times until it becomes just that again, just this, all this again. And then you don't pay so much attention to it. You can just ignore it. And that allows you to get past it. But the first few times it has to be said, and you have to allow yourself this, give yourself slack. That you will get excited about it the first few times, or weirded out by it the first few times, or whatever happens, until it just seems more ordinary. And then you can just go straight past it, ignoring it. Some people get taller. The opposite one is shrinking. And there's variations of this. There is expansion in all directions. But I mean, some people literally just go up. And they get really, really tall. Very strange. But okay. If you get tall, you know, go with it. It's okay. Allow that to happen. It doesn't matter which one of these you get. There is no correct one. Getting shrinking or getting taller, it's all the same, basically. It's not, oh, I must do this or I must do that. And you might not get any of these spatial ones. You might get visual ones as well, or other experiences. But I'm just giving you the whole wide range of inner experiences that we do commonly find getting, okay? Just so that if they do happen, you don't get weirded out too much, or you know, don't open your eyes. Okay. The more common one, almost everybody gets this, is this merging into the environment. Starts off very simply as the hard and fast boundary starts disappearing between the body and everything else. And a lot of people find that even as they're relaxing the body, they're already getting a bit more blurred. Particularly if we do that visualized relaxing the body I did, that people do find to get lighter and more floaty and more vague and indistinct at that point. And already your awareness will be going into that first layer of the aura at that point. It's already getting blurred at that point. But then as the mind, particularly when it's at the center of the body and you're starting to get more calm, more still, which is the driver of the whole thing, is when the mind becomes having less thoughts, okay, more present at the center, particularly when it's in balance between mindfulness and relaxation. When it's got that balance, it starts to go forward through the experiences. At that point, you will probably find an expansion. It's what happens for most people. Okay, there is a great variety out there, but that vagueness will find the sense of expansion. Simple as that. Expanding to like this kind of size, maybe around the whole body. And that's when you're clearly going into an aura around the body, and it'll be very obvious, quite frankly. But sometimes it can go really quite wide. Okay, when you get more still, it can go much wider, and then it can sometimes go in jumps, like it's leaping out to the size of the room suddenly. Really big sudden expansion like this, or woof out into the town kind of size, or the universe kind of size. Sometimes it's very gradual and smooth in the way it goes outwards. You know, just one great big long expansion outwards into the universe. there is definitely a great variety of ways in which it can expand in this way. What normally happens is, and it's a big obstacle, one I've had many times as an obstacle, is when it happens is, where do I put my mind? Where do I put my awareness? I mean, it feels like you're floating in space, and you get disorientated a little bit, and you're like, it's like you get lost. Where do I go? Which way? You know. And everybody quotes on the same thing of feeling like you're floating in space and not knowing where you're supposed to go. So I've asked several of the best monks at meditation on this, and to try and get an authoritative answer. And I ended up getting 3 answers on this, so I can't give you just the one answer. So I'm going to give you all of the different answers I've ever received on this, so that you can try out different ones. Okay. The answer from Lomporta Machio, who's the abbot of Wat Pah Dhammakaya in Thailand, the current main meditation master of all of us, all of the monks, he usually says, wherever it's comfortable, let your mind be there. Okay. So any comfortable place, just allow your awareness to be there. That's your center for now, for you. So that's probably the answer for many people. And it basically says, you could say that it's about just not worrying about it too much. And I think that is also my final way of dealing with this, which I'll come on to. But that's one way. Okay, the most comfortable spot. What they actually use is the word sabai, for those people who picked up this Thai word. Sabai meaning comfortable. So wherever's good for you. Okay, wherever feels comfortable for you, and just feel like you stay there. Another one I got from another one, the most advanced meditation team, and he said, well, you can just go with it. You can be the whole of that experience, the whole of it. So instead of trying to nail it down to any particular spot, you just become the whole of that spaciousness. You can try that. You can try that. Another one was, because the center is really vague. I mean, how can you find the center? There's no references. Anybody who's had this experience will probably know what I mean. There's no grid location on this of an XY coordinate of where the center is. So you could just stay where you were. Okay, because you were obviously at the center when you went there. So if you just assume to yourself that then I'm still at the center, and basically the answer to it simply is that you don't move. Stay where you were. Okay. And I think that for me seems to work the best. Okay, is stay where you were, don't move. And part of that is not attaching to or focusing on what is expanding. Okay. Now, this is particularly the case if you're visually expanding. And what I mean by that is, you have a crystal ball. So you've been visualizing, and you've got your crystal ball, and then this crystal ball expands outwards. Has anybody ever had? Well, I think you've had that happen. But has anybody else ever had the crystal ball expand? Not yet. I mean, you have to be pretty deep in meditation for it to happen, but it will eventually happen. The crystal ball expands. And the first few times it happened to me, I didn't know what to do. And so, oh, wow, and it's expanding. I watch it sort of expand outwards. And the problem is that you then go out with it and you move away from the center. So actually the trick with that is to not pay attention to it, to not attach to it and go with it and ride it outwards, but to stay at the center where it emerged from, where it was expanding from. And at the center, there'll probably be like a little spark of light, a little star of light. And we just stay there, ignoring whatever comes out of it. And oftentimes, if we get this right, another ball of light, another crystal ball will emerge out of that point of light and expand outwards. And again, we pay no attention to that one either. We just stay at the center of it. So that principle of not going with the experience, not hitching a ride on the experience, watching, oh, wow, look at that, or isn't that experience wonderful? I'm feeling wide and wide and going with it, but just staying where you were, ignoring it. That one I find tends to work. Okay. Just staying at that center. Now, there is other ways we can get this expansion in a very deliberate way. Like I led at the end of this meditation, where we spreaded our loving kindness, this metta, and we expand our awareness around the room. You might do that visually, visualizing the crystal ball going around the room. But oftentimes it feels like you are expanding. Okay. And you can, we go right out into the universe doing this. With practice, you will have a very real sense of expansion when you do this. So there can be a kind of conscious, deliberate way of expanding, or there can be a spontaneous expansion, like I said, where the crystal ball by itself expands outwards. So there can be a conscious way of doing it, deliberate way of doing it, or a spontaneous, natural way of this expansion occurring, both of them. And both of them we can use when, as I said, when this point of light emerges and this one crystal ball comes out and after another, or one Buddha image after another emerging from the center of the center, always more and more and faster and faster. That is a very powerful meditation experience, and it's getting to the very critical point when we do that. When we're already there, once you get that experience, it's one of the best experiences before the real deep experiences. It's the boundary experience. But some people don't get that expansion, but we have a crystal ball or the Buddha image or whatever other image we've got there. And when the mind's really subtle and it's really stable, if it's a really stable image, we can keep it for an hour or whatever quite stably. We can then deliberately have it expand outwards and then deliberately shrink it back down to a point and deliberately expand it outwards. When I say deliberately here, it's the barest intention. It's slightest intention. It goes whoosh, outwards to the limits of the universe. Slightest intention, it comes down to a point. Very subtle mind that can do this. And it becomes deeply absorbing when we do it. It expands outwards and comes back down to a point. Expands outwards, comes back down to a point again and again. This is what was called jhana sport. Jhana, I've mentioned before in other ones, is where we go into the complete deep states of concentration. And this is a way that we practice the mind that leads into it. And it's a classical technique as well from the very ancient scriptures of expanding and shrinking it down. And it makes the mind completely malleable, soft, focused, and pure, absorbed in the experience. But either way, if you're doing it deliberately like this, or that's spontaneously coming out, that's also really absorbing. It becomes like a tunnel that's drawing you into that point until it becomes completely focused, which is what leads into the next stages. So yes, it can happen in either of these ways, but the same thing happens that we have to, the quality of mind that we need at this point is to stay neutral. Stay neutral, stay neutral, stay neutral. Be disinterested in the whole experience. The only way that's going to happen is by having it happen many times. It's almost inherently interesting because it's not just a visual experience when these happens. At this point, you'll be feeling bliss. At this point, you're going to be feeling stronger and stronger and stronger and more profound states of happiness continuously. The longer you're staying in that state, the more it piles on. If you're staying in there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's getting really quite strong. And so that can, get your interest going. And some of the things that you're seeing are just exquisitely beautiful. The images that you get become more beautiful if you're in the visualized aspect. But even if you're in the not visualized aspect and you're having this expansion of awareness At some point, you'll start to see light by itself. And then the happiness will come. Well, usually, actually, the happiness tends to come first, and then you start seeing light. But either way, these things are all going to start coming together. And then it's, oh, wow, I'm getting something happening. And then it stops. We react to it. So we have to not react to the experience. We have to be disinterested in it and detached from it. Detachment is key Buddhist quality of being detached so that we live with it. We don't get dragged by that experience. So once you, what happens is when you do react to it and it suddenly stops, you have to throw the whole experience away, start over again. And you're like, oh no, I was really wanting to go with that kind of thing, you know. That thought is the attachment. And so when we go back to the first stage, which is letting go, and we learn to let go of, oh no, it's gone. You know, when we can let go of that, we weaken the attachment. We weaken that attachment. And every time it happens, and we can then let go quicker and easier, the more we're reducing our attachments to this experience, the more neutral we will therefore be when we do get that experience again. Now, to really get that experiences happening on a regular basis so that this process can occur quickly, you have to be able to get that experience occurring frequently. To get that experience occurring frequently, even getting it once is quite hard, you know. Get it frequently, you have to be practicing frequently. Simple as that. You have to be practicing meditation frequently and being mindful continuously. That's what really drives it more than anything else. So once we can be neutral to this, then what I say is just to forget everything. Forget you know anything, forget the experience, forget any technique. Just be like you're in the back of a car being driven somewhere, and just let go of all control and let yourself be driven. Just allow, let it be, and just go with it until it kicks you out of the car, which will happen, okay, later on, you know, you hit some obstacle later on, but you just go along for the ride, however long it takes. And that's the way of really switching off, okay, because the whole experience is arising because you stop the mind. So as soon as you start the mind again, you will get kicked straight out of that experience for mostly, and come down to one of the earlier experiences, which you'll then have to use a technique to rebalance. For example, go back to Samma Arahang, for example. That first experience of expanding outwards, we're feeling softer, we're feeling more spacious, a feeling of clarity, feeling a bit larger, comfortable. That's the first kind of major goal in meditation. It's the first real achievement in meditation. And it's the one that we actually want to be able to practice until every meditation we get to that stage. Even if we don't get any further than that, we don't get all the other ones, which I'll say and have said before, even if we don't get any of those, but we just get to that stage every time, regularly, that our abbot has always said, that is fantastic and awesome and the absolute guarantee of further success in the future. Having the consistency at that level is the number one thing. Not anything further than that. Because if that has got a firm foundation, it will just continually accumulate and pile up inevitably. But if you're getting up and down, so this day I get this, the other day I get that, this morning it's different, I'm always over there, and this inconsistency, it won't make good progress. Even if you get like blindingly good meditation one day, you know, gone far further than this, but the next day wandering. But if you can always get back to just this state on a regular basis, that is an absolute guarantee of success in the end. And that just takes, once you know the state of mind and the technique that you used in order to get there, in the way you let go to get there, for example, you'll find your mind will know the way back, and it will get back there quite easily and quicker, and it'll get quicker and quicker. If you're getting it regularly, it will start getting extremely quick. You won't have to do all those steps that I lead you through. The 7 bases of mind you won't need. As soon as you sit down to meditate, you'll find your mind being pulled towards the center of the body, and you'll just go with it. You won't need to go through the 7 bases. To find there's something pulling the mind towards the center of the body, and you'll just go with it. As soon as it reaches the center of the body, you'll go, you feel like you're expanding outwards. And the body will just start disappearing. And you just go with that. It can happen so quick that you barely have time to put your finger touching the other thumb. Some people, it's barely shut your eyes and you've gone in. You can get that quick. So, but only with getting consistency will it get quicker and quicker this way. But you have to be aware that, hey, I'm not going to try and slow it down. So even if I'm leading meditation, sometimes just ignore me, all right? If you're feeling that it's going already in, forget me, forget everything else, allow it. Go with that flow inwards to the center of the body. I know some of the people here do that now. But I didn't listen to anything you said. I just went inside, Good, that's the right stage. So once we've gone in there, the happiness will then start, the brightness then starts. As I said, it will all converge on this state of complete concentration, and then the dimensional shift happens, which I think I'm talking about on the last day of this course. But next week I'll talk more on the center of the center. And that is enough from me. It's 9:06. Thank you for listening. And I'll take any questions now.